Hello everybody and welcome to another video. And today we're going to be looking at a band I've not heard of before. But this video came up in my YouTube suggested videos about 3 weeks ago when I was having a bit of a bad time with my mental health. And I didn't actually listen to the track at the time, but I thought I'll save it and I'll do a reaction video to it when I get back to it. So that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to be looking at a band called Be'lakor. Never heard of them, so had to do a little bit of research, and there was a fair amount. And what I found is Be'lakor is an Australian melodic death metal band from Melbourne. The band's name originates from the character Be'lakor, the Dark Master in the Warhammer fantasy games. So there we go. The band was formed in 2004 but didn't start playing live until 2005. In 2007 they self-released their debut album, The Frail Tide, which received generally popular and positive reviews. In 2008 they signed with Descent Productions and re-released their debut album in digipack form. A year later, they embarked on a national tour and signed with a different record company, Prime Cuts. Their second album, Stone's Reach, was released on the 20th of June and received much praise by reviewers. And in November, they signed with yet another record label, Colony Records. In 2010, their second album took first place in Metal Storm's Best Melodeath Gothenburg Metal Album. For 2009, should I say. They later went on to support Turisas on their national tour of Australia in May. They were the opening act for Ailstorm in the Melbourne leg of their Plunder Down Under tour in 2010. And they also performed at the Summer Breeze Open Air Festival in Germany, also in 2010. They released their third album, Of Breath and Bone, in 2012, and they began touring Europe, with playing Brutal Assault in the Czech Republic. They also performed again at the Summer Breeze Open Air Festival in Germany in August, and supported Apocalyptica in Melbourne during their 2012 Australia tour. In September, they also supported At the Gates during their tour. In August of 2015, they returned to Europe and played Brutal Assault and Rockstad Open Air in Romania and Summer Breeze once again. Matt Dodds of Aberynth took over lead guitar due to illness of their normal guitarist, Sean. And in 2015, the band announced that their fourth album would be released in March of 2016. Later on, in December, their drummer left the band to pursue other musical ventures and was replaced by Elliot Sansom, who previously worked with Melbourne-based bands Future Corps, Okera and the Seaford Monster. On the 24th of June 2016, they released Vessels, the fourth album. Now, the video that I'm going to be looking at today is called Hidden Window. I have no idea what album this comes off. Like I said, this video was released on YouTube about 3 weeks ago. So whether it's from an upcoming fifth album, I don't know. There was very little information going on it. I do have some lyrics here. Not sure how accurate they are because they don't come directly from the band or under the YouTube video. So melodic death metal, I like that. So let's jump into this and see what we've got. So this is Be'lakor, Hidden Window. Let's have a look. there we go. Hidden Window by Bellacore. Now, I said I didn't know if this was coming off another album, and it showed there right near the beginning and right near the end. It said Bellacore Coherence. So whether that's the name of a new album, I'm not entirely certain. But what a fantastic piece of music that was. I really like that. That was very unusual. I love the vocal style. It sounded amazing. And, you know, they said the melodic death metal, and that's literally the only way you could describe it. But it was quite different to a lot of melodic death metal that I've listened to. But I really like it. And the song is clearly telling a story. Whether it's part of a concept album, I'm not entirely sure. But the song is talking about three men who know that there is treasure hidden inside this mountain that they can only access through a certain point. And as things go on, one of the three friends sort of starts becoming paranoid of his companions, that they might be hiding something from him, and eventually he ends up killing one of them. So the lyrics, I know it was a lyric video, but we'll talk about them anyway. And it goes, the mountain kept a trove inside that was known only to the three closest friends, now that their greed had burdened them with things to hide. The entrance was a hidden window, punctured through a narrow vein, to crawl inside as light would wane, and come to pitch in caves below. So it says right in the opening line, you know, the mountain kept a trove inside that was known only to the three close friends, and now that their greed had burdened them with things, you know, they sort of kept it to themselves, you know, just them three. They were like, there's treasure in here, we're going to go and get it. And it says the entrance was a hidden window, punctured through a narrow vein, to crawl inside as light would wane. So maybe it was, you know, the way in, you could only find it at a certain time of day, kind of like getting into the mountain in, you know, how the dwarfs got into the Lonely Mountain in The Hobbit. You know, you can only see the entrance at a certain time of day. Maybe it's kind of like that. In secrecy, they would converge to split the rocks and mill to dust, revealing spoils within the crust from when those peaks had first emerged. So the three friends were going to secretly go into this mountain, start mining, and, you know, searching for this treasure that was deep within the mountain that they were so certain was there. Blurred intent through eyes that stung, their fingers cut upon the slate, while stale air would suffocate and sap the vigour from their lungs. The taper's flame was just enough to see each pick from fall to rise, so desperate that they find their prize before the wick would finally snuff. So they're working in a very sort of confined space. The air is stale and almost suffocating them. So they're in these horrible conditions where they're struggling to breathe, they're struggling to see. The flame that they've got, like the candle, the tape, or whatever that they've got, is growing very short. So they've only got a very limited time to try and find something. So they're absolutely determined to find this treasure. And, you know, they're willing to go through whatever it takes. It then goes, but when one paused to have a breath, their friend's hand would conceal, it seemed, which caused a thought had something gleamed, and trust began to sense its death. So there it goes. You know, one of them sort of wore himself out and was, you know, decided to sort of stop and go, you know, take a bit of a breath, have a bit of a rest, and he saw his friend's hand cover something up. You know, out of the corner of his eye, he saw this sort of glint or glimmer of something that might be a jewel or a precious metal, and his friend's hand seemed to conveniently cover it up as he looked over. And that's when, you know, he's sort of going, hold on, is he trying to hide this from me? Is he trying to keep it all for himself? Carries on, what if he knows that I saw, and what if he decides to strike? But what if it was nothing more than light's deceit and failing light? So he's sitting there going, you know, what if this person that's hidden this knows that I saw him and is now going to try and kill me because, you know, I've seen him trying to cover it up and keep it all for himself. But did I really see it, or was it a trick of the light that's, you know, the candle that we've got is growing dim, and the light outside, you know, it is fading. So maybe it was just a trick of the light. Did I definitely see what I thought I saw? From just a flicker in their mind, the thought would twist, consume, then grow, and with each wave doubt would erode, till all he knew confirmed his bind. So the more he sort of sat and thought about it, the more he became convinced that his friend was trying to hide something from him, that he was trying to keep all the treasure for himself, you know. So he sort of talked himself into the fact that his friend was going to betray him. Those ancient paths bore only fear that, left unchecked, had overflowed. To shatter balance he had known. As shrinking walls began to near, in pebbles bounced the avalanche. In pebbles bounced the avalanche. In falling drop the bursting dam. He gripped the pick and, looming then, swung an arc that killed his friend. So, in that sort of confined claustrophobic space, you know, he became convinced that everybody was against him, that his friend was going to betray him. You know, he was certain what he saw and that people were going to steal from him. So his paranoia sort of grew exponentially because he felt more and more claustrophobic. Everything felt like it was closing in. So, you know, he became so certain that his friend was going to kill him because he saw him trying to hide it, that he decided to strike first, picked up his pickaxe and stuffed it in his man's head. So he killed his friend. He barely saw their third had fled. A febrile haze evaporated, and with it certainty faded, abandoned now for churning dread. Endless whispers from the void, each offering narration. He searched the body frantically and begged for vindication. So he hadn't even realised that the third friend had run, you know, seeing what had happened, had legged it. You know, he barely noticed it. You know, it was only maybe after, you know, he'd killed his friend that he noticed that the other guy had gone. You know, maybe he just saw like a cloud of dust as he wily coyoted out of there. And as he's seen that, he's a little sort of shadow of doubt sort of crept into his mind, going, did I really see what I thought I saw? Was he really going to do that? You know, so now he's got this increasing doubt in his mind, like, oh my god, what have I done? Did I really kill him for no good reason? And etc. At the end, he searched his body frantically and begged for vindication. So now he's sort of searching the body, looking for evidence, looking for whatever that shiny thing was that he saw, in the hope that he will be proved right and that he did the right thing because his friend was trying to steal from him. So, you know, it's basically like the story of, you know, greed, the way things are, and, you know, the way things are, because people these days are so attached to, like, material possessions. People get so greedy over things. Like, if he's got it, I want it. Especially countries, certain rather large countries seem to have a big problem with that. But it's just that sort of greed, and then you do whatever it takes to get what it is that you want, and then you sort of think about it and go, did I do the right thing? You know, because I've just hurt, possibly even killed so many people for my own selfish needs. Am I right? Was I right? Did I have good reason for it, or was it just pure greed? But I mean, I really like that song. I like the performance. It sounded great. Like I said, I really like the vocal style on it. It sounded amazing. The music was fantastic. It was actually quite a long song. It was about 8.5 minutes. I didn't realise the song was that long. But I'm going to have to go and find the rest of their music. I want to listen to more of their stuff because that was brilliant. And like I said, from the sounds of the way that song's written, it could possibly be part of a concept album. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's just a standalone story. I have no way of knowing. So I want to go and investigate more of their other music to find out. But I really, really liked that. And I liked the fact that it was telling a story. And it was narrated very, very well. You know, it was very clear what was going on. So, you know, very good, very interesting band. I'm definitely going to have to investigate them further. But I don't know what else to say about that, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Now, if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. You can comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you can even message me through my Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would of course be a massive help to me, since every piece of content I create gets immediately demonetized the moment I upload the video. There is an option in Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue if you should so desire it. There's a limit on how frequently you can do that, and that's just to be fair to other people who make suggestions through more regular means such as YouTube, Facebook and Instagram comments. And if you do make a suggestion through those regular means, do know it could take me a while to get around to your suggestion, since I do get suggested so many new tracks every single day. My list grows faster than I can record the videos, plus I did just recently take 4 weeks off, so I've got a bit of a back catalogue going on as well. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it should get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get around to it, unfortunately. Also, MetalHead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose goal is to put an end to hate crimes, and one of the major facets of that is hate crimes against people of the alternative culture. And that's something I believe in very, very strongly, because it's something that gets very, very widely ignored. People don't seem to treat it as a real problem, when in fact it's a much bigger and much worse problem than people really think. Because every day all around the world, people from the alternative community are getting violently and brutally assaulted just purely for the fact that they listen to alternative music. And we're not just talking about insults being thrown or getting shouldered around as you walk down the street. We're talking about violent, brutal attacks where people are getting hospitalized, sometimes with broken limbs and sometimes even more life-threatening injuries, just simply over the fact that they listen to different kinds of music. The last time there was any widespread talk about this sort of thing was about 14 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently and brutally assaulted by a group of 5 or 6 people that beat them, kicked them, punched them, knocked them to the ground and stamped on their heads so violently that they both ended up in comas. Now, Rob Maltby, he did thankfully survive the attack. He was in a coma for about a week and a half, maybe a bit longer, but he did thankfully survive. Sophie Lancaster, on the other hand, she was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries and she died. This young woman was 20 years old and was beaten to death just purely for the fact that she listened to alternative music and wore alternative fashion. Now, when this happened, this was all over the news, as rightfully it should have been. But over time, it faded into the background as other news stories came in, which is fair enough, because that's what happens. But in the 14 years since that's happened, we've not heard anything similar, even though there have been several hundred, if not several thousand, similar incidents in that time. But nothing's been said. Every single day we hear about all these other hate crimes like sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, ableism, etc. We hear these on a daily basis. From the most heinous and violent of these crimes, where someone is brutally murdered because of the colour of their skin, their religious beliefs, or their sexual identity, down to the most petty of these crimes, where some entitled white woman is calling the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space. We hear these on a daily basis in every kind of media. But as soon as it comes to somebody from the alternative community getting violently attacked, nothing is said. And that's something that really needs to change. Just a couple of years ago, a young woman in Glasgow, Scotland, was violently and brutally assaulted twice on the same night by, a group of 5 people. She was beaten, kicked, punched, knocked to the ground, and violently and brutally beaten. But this wasn't in the news. This wasn't all over the TV. This wasn't all over the internet. This wasn't all over social media. Nothing was said. And again, this was a young woman. Again, it was a 21-year-old woman violently and brutally assaulted because of her taste in music. But, nothing was said. If this had been a racial attack, if this had been a homophobic attack, if this had been a religious-based attack, this would have been all over the news. But this was somebody from the alternative community. Nothing was said. And that's just wrong. Something needs to be done. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 2 weeks. It shouldn't have to take someone's death for something to get done. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before people start doing something and taking action to prevent this sort of thing from happening. the way things are going, people are just ignoring that this is a problem. And it is, it's a very big problem. But the more we ignore it, the more it's going to happen. And if we carry on ignoring it, it's only a matter of time before someone else loses their life over something as pointless as their taste in music. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there's a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their overall goal is, because they can explain it a heck of a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously don't feel obligated to do so. But if you can help them in any small way, whether it's a small donation through their website or something as simple as one of these Sophie wristbands, maybe even that one, they've got a whole bunch of other really cool stuff over there. The smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we make more people aware of what a big problem this really is, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.